Hey everybody, welcome back. So I thought I'd change it up. The last few videos have been about new, fancy, clean, cool, new stuff equipment, and today we're going to talk about some old dead giants here, which are these Terex TS24s, like this one. And there's actually two of them. There's another one right over here behind me. So, let's check them out and talk about them a little bit, because they are really cool and basically extinct at this point. But let's talk about them.
The Terex line. Scrapers, loaders, tractors, haulers. Machines you'll find doing all kinds of jobs in major markets all over the world. And when it comes to a popular scraper for heavy construction work, what's better known than the Terex twins? The popularity and economics of twin-engine scrapers gain every year. The TS24, with a 24-yard struck, 32-yard heaped rating, means that this is a highly productive machine. Even in marginal conditions caused by bad weather, the TS24 with all-wheel drive stays on the job.
So Terex kind of has a twisted, crazy story of being sold and acquired and bankruptcy and being sold again and on and on and on. Originally, it was started as Euclid. In 1968, the DOJ ruled that they were required to stop selling dump trucks in the U.S. So GM at that time, who owned Euclid, came up with the name Terex to continue to be able to sell scrapers and other types of stuff that wasn't covered under the ruling. So at that point, Terex was born due to a vast amount of government overreach and oversight. But regardless, 1968, Terex was born from Euclid, which was owned by GM. And the first TS24 was actually built in 1957 under the Euclid name, and then was continued into Terex in 1968. The TS24 was also made until 1986, which I didn't realize. I assumed that was the TS24C. The ones we're looking at here are TS24Bs. Weighing in at 91,000 pounds with a 40-ton capacity. They are some big units. I suppose they're comparable to a Cat 631, even though a Cat 631 only has a single engine and the TS24s are double engine. These two machines are both a B10 build spec. I know to a lot of people that means nothing, but to the Terex people, you'll understand, which I believe puts them around 1980 or 1982. I was actually lucky enough to see both of these machines run at one point, scraping dirt. There was also a TS14 that ran with them, which was another double engine scraper, but smaller. They were pushing them with a D9G, and it was really cool to see. I wish I had some video of that. It was many years ago, clearly, by the condition of them, but it was so cool to see. I'm just glad I got to see it at least once. I wanted to take a second and just kind of give a size comparison. I am 6'2", so this tire is 6'6", maybe, and that's the operator station way up there. So that's just the size of one of these TS24s kind of comparison. And that tire is a 33.5 by 33. Not exactly sure what that means, but it's big. So when doing my research on these, I found that there was several different build specs, especially with the engines. Some had a 12V71 Detroit in the front and a 671 in the rear. Some also had a 12V71 in the front with an 8V71 in the rear. Both of these, though, have 8V71s front and rear. They're also connected to an Allison transmission, which is divorced, which means it has a drive shaft between the engine and transmission. They're not directly bolted together. And of course that transfers via another drive shaft to this massive final drive, front and rear. And there's the rear 8V71. Something I didn't realize about this until I got a little kind of closer look is it has an air starter, which means the front engine actually has an air compressor with an air tank that builds up air, and then that air starter starts the rear engine. So you only have one set of batteries that start the front of the scraper, and then you start the rear with the air starter. It also has a divorced transmission, which means it's got a drive shaft hooking it to the transmission. In fact, one of these machines had the rear engine out of it where it had blown up many years ago. Right there you can actually see the drive shaft that used to connect that 8V to the transmission. They had about a 700 horsepower combined power rating, and all that went through this massive hitch right here behind the cab, pushing from the rear and pulling from the front, and that connected to the bowl. 24-yard strut capacity with a 32-yard heat capacity. They were some big machines, again comparable to a 631, which is like a 32-yard capacity machine itself. As far as an operator station, it wasn't exactly what I would call luxurious. You basically had a 8V71 Detroit as your right armrest and 3-lever hydraulics with a transmission shifter that controlled the front and rear transmission. You had 3-lever hydraulics, one lifted the bowl, one lifted the apron, and one operated the ejector cylinder to push the dirt out of the bowl. Well, there you go. There's a look at two old TS24s. They're definitely cool machines. Nobody really would want to run them anymore. They're dinosaurs of the past, not really operator friendly, but they are definitely cool. I don't know what the future holds for these two. The owner is insistent on one day maybe getting them running again, but who really knows? Their future is a little bit questionable. But maybe they'll be sticking around for another generation to check out one day. They definitely don't make them like this anymore, that's for sure.
Both single and twin-engine Terex scrapers continue to prove they can move dirt at the lowest cost per yard. In high-resistance operations, twin power comes to the front, whether sloshing through mud or climbing a grade.